Welcome back to Scrap with Penny. If you watched my first layout process video yesterday, thank you for coming back. It was a lot, and I'm not usually a person that sweats very much, but oh my goodness, I was struggling yesterday. So I have another 1-page 4-photo sketch for you today that I'm working on. It's a paid sketch, so I can't show it to you, but if you look right here, you can see a page maps from January 2024 that's very close to what I'm going to do. Like I mentioned, when you see 3 photos, it's very easy to adapt it to 4. And anytime you see a piece of paper, if you don't want solid, you can do banners, you can do a circle, a little pattern of circle punches. So this is kind of where we're starting, and I wanted to share that with you. The bundle I'm using is the same one as yesterday. On the Scrapbook Generation side, I think it's labeled bundle 515. And it's a 4-photo, 1-page sketch bundle. Okay, so what I'm working on is one of our favorite restaurants that we love to meet after work for dinner at. And sadly, it closed late last year, so oh, it's so sad. But it opened right before the pandemic, and then it shut down, and then they didn't work on to-go food for a long time, and they did finally reopen after the pandemic, but I just don't think they ever had their feet under them. Anyway, I've got these photos. I'm going to trim this one to 4x4. This one will be 3x3, and then these two are 2.5 by 2.5, and they're going to stack in the middle of my page. And for my layout, I found this paper at a crop I went to in February in Waxahachie. And when it came out and said Cowboys, I kind of dismissed it. But this floral is so pretty, and it reminds me of a Ralph Lauren safari line from many years ago. But I love it. And the restaurant is a upscale barbecue place, and so that's kind of what I'm going for the vibe of. So I've got this floral and this grid, and it's an off-white. This is a piece of paper I've cut before. It's the reverse side of that floral. It's a blue, and it's a hard shade of blue to match. And then here's the stripe. It surprised me that they used black here instead of this blue, but what do I know? Then here's this bandana sheet. This piece of paper is going to be my central piece of paper for my layout. Here's a wood grain. I don't think I'm going to use this, but it adds to understanding the vibe of the collection. And then here's a little check. Always good for anything to do with barbecue. And then the cardstock I pulled, it's both Carta and they're both natural color, but this one is the natural linen texture, and this one is their canvas, and they're so different in color. And honestly, I'm gonna go with this one. I just pulled this one to show you the differences. And then this is another sheet in the collection. Not gonna use, I picked this one up primarily to scrapbook a childhood memory of a music class and growing up in Texas, where we learn all things Texas. I read the James Michener Texas book recently, and he said in the book, and this is true, that Texas is the only state that sells Texas. So I thought that was funny. And then these two right here our sarsaparilla from October Afternoon, and I pulled them. I'm pretty sure this was designed by Steve Duncan. And Steve Duncan used to work for Carta. So anytime I have a Carta Steve Duncan line, I go pull it. And that's not exact, but, you know, you could sell it. And I just grabbed these two out, so maybe they would lend themselves to embellishments. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and cut my paper, and I'll be right back. So I'm back, and I'm going to go ahead and trim my photos. Honestly, I don't know how much to show you all. I don't know what you care to look at or see. For me, when I'm watching a video, if it's not something I'm enjoying, you know, I'll fast forward. So I'm kind of working under the premise here that you'll you'll fast forward me if it's not something you want to see. On the paper, I've got a 7x12 piece of the bandana paper, and I talked about how that was going to be my main piece of paper in the middle. And then I've got a 1.5 inch strip of that floral on either side of it. And then I use the Martha Stewart apron doily punch, I think that's what it's called, to create just a faint little border here. Now, I'm still struggling with this dividing line. I don't care for how visible the edge is. So I'm considering either running a straight stitch down that seam with some embroidery floss, or putting some cardstock onto it. So my sketch calls for photo placement like this. I'm going to trim this one to 4x4. So my photos, 1 3x3, 1 4x4, and 2 2.5 by 2.5. And this is the configuration. It's kind of a cluster around this main photo. And journaling is going to go up here. Title down here. And I've got this mat cut. It calls, the sketch I'm working with calls for a 5x5 mat. And I wanted to use this paper, but I wanted to get the picture on there to see what color mat I wanted to put underneath it, because I think it needs a color. How about I pull out some wood grain? So this wood grain is some of the newer from Echo Park, and I like that it's not solid pieces of wood, and I like the color. So I need to cut a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 on this. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. I did go ahead and tape all of this down so it didn't move in the video. Okay, then for this, it shows a lighter color mat. I wanted to bring the blue in on a mat, and I think I'm going to do it right here. My concern is it's going up against this blue of the title. Well, you know what? I need it to be 2.75 by 2.75 for this one, or a little bit smaller for this one. I'm going to do this one in the blue. My husband watched my video last night, and he said that I needed to get my math correct before I did this again. And I said, no, you don't understand. That was a genuine mistake. It was cute because he treated me like I was one of his employees getting a review. All right. So this is going to go here, and it needs a supplementary mat between the photo and the paper. But I like how this is looking. For this, even though it would be red on red, I'm thinking about that gingham. Yeah, I think that works. So I'm going to do a 3.5 by 3.5 again. Okay. So we've got all of this, and these sides are even. On the sketch, they show stitching on all of these squares, and I'm just now thinking I could have got my stitch square die out, but that's okay. Not everything gets to be perfect. So I need one more mat here. And there's just not a lot of paper choices from the collection unless I repeat the blue. And I don't think that would be terrible. So I'm going to cut a 3 by 3 of the blue. Yep. Okay, that's all looking good. I need a second mat for this, which is 2.75 by 2.75. So I got my mats cut, and I, out of habit, reached for white, and then I realized I really should go with this off-white. I don't really care about white versus cream, but I have so much of this cream, and I just don't scrap with these off-white collections very much anymore. So I thought it was an opportunity to use it. And I cut this one just a little more narrow. And I might trim these down. So this is what we have. My title's going to go down here, journaling up here. I pulled some, oh, that's pretty cute. I was looking for a guest check, so I pulled some die cuts, die cuts, journal cards, whatever you want to call them. That's also cute, and I like that it says a register number. I had pulled telegram and nope. So I think that's it. I've got this chipboard that says amazing in the wood. I've got this cow because it's barbecue. And I pulled this chipboard heart, and that'll probably make its way on there somewhere. My title is going to say Our Favorite Date Night, and I've got it ready to cut on the silhouette. I wanted to get the layout to this point to get a feel for what color I needed to introduce, and I'm going to come in a wood grain or a dark brown cardstock, and I'm going to do it in the same tone. And I pulled these for the wood grain. I've got some label punches pulled for some layering, and I've got this Spellbinders cutlery die, which I just love, and I'm probably going to cut that in wood grain. And then I've got some stamp sets, Hero Arts, and one of these might be Kelly Perky. And then I've got this one that says a lot of things: Happy Moments, Finish This, Kerri Bradford, another Kerri Bradford set, Signs of a Good Day. And then this stamp set. So I'm gonna pause the video again and finish this up and come back with the finished layout. See you in a little bit. So I'm back, and this is mostly finished. I wanted to show you my vellum hack. This is underneath a piece of 4x6 cardstock, and I just have adhesive on it to hold the vellum down. And I run this through my photo printer, and then, you know, you want to wait a good little bit and let the ink set up. I just use black and white setting on best print, and I just use this one piece of paper over and over, and when it gets not so sticky, I just add more removable adhesive. So I've got this to where it'll fit right there. I really debated on whether or not to use brown ink because I've got so much brown in everything else, and I decided to just roll with the traditional black. The vellum that I use is just Paper Studios from Hobby Lobby. It's not anything expensive or fancy. I actually grabbed some Spellbinders vellum on an order many months ago and wanted to try it, and man, it did not print off well. It was all fuzzy, so that was a no-go. So Hobby Lobby it is. And then my best trick for getting it to adhere is to use a vellum adhesive. I don't know if you can still find this anywhere. And then to take the vellum adhesive directly to the paper. I need to come up a little bit because of that date. I don't really like that date is completely hidden. So let me come up a little more. I can come over some. I ignored the information on the card. So I think this is it. I did stamp. I stamped here, here, and here. And I used Pink Fresh Espresso. I wanted to use a couple of other punches, but I just didn't think they worked to get in the mix. You can hear the dogs. I don't know what stamp sets I pulled from. Anyway, okay, so I think this is it. I'm probably going to stitch maybe here or here or here on both sides. And I think you'll just have to check a layout share to see where I end up on that. I did stitch off-white in here. The sketch called to stitch here, here, and then outside this box. I couldn't stand the thought of highlighting 3 photos of the 4, so I just chose to highlight the 1. Of course, this is my Misty, which I used to stamp, and I studied these 2 sets, didn't see anything that I could pull in. And the last tip I had for you is, this is my cardstock scrap binder. So when I needed the brown, I just went to my neutral binder. I've got neutral, warm, and cool. And these are planner disc. So with American Crafts changing their business direction and Basil being so unavailable in a lot of places, I am valuing my scraps a lot more. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you coming to Scrap with Penny, where paper meets story. Please come back and crop with me. Every page does have a story. Let's work together on yours. Subscribe for all the notifications. And until next time, bye-bye.